Before I begin today's video, I have a quick question for you. Why is it that certain state GOP organizations are installing anti-Trump leadership? You can find out more about that problem through the link in the description box below. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about this ridiculous piece from Time Magazine that states while the elite didn't really rig the election, they did do everything else but that. All right. They lobbied to get certain laws changed. They lobbied to get the media to work in their favor. They did everything up under the sun except for specifically, quote unquote, rig it. Their word was they fortified it. Now, from my point of view, I guess fortify means what? Make it stronger, build it up. But the question is, if it's about making it stronger, stronger in the eyes of who? If you're pushing for voter ID laws and stuff like that, is that making the election stronger or weaker? I guess it's all in the eyes of the beholder, I suppose. But before we even go any further into my opinion, let's read some of this. This is a pretty long read. I'll link to it in the description box below if you want to read it for yourself. Let's get into a little bit of this just so we're on the same page and just so you understand what's going on here. And let's go ahead and get to it. It looks a little bit different on my screen because I'm in the reader mode right now. Like I said, it'll be in the box below. You can read it for yourself. But it says it right here on the screen, the secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. Let's pause right away from the title. If it's about you fortifying the election, making sure the election went well, why are you talking about saved the election? Shouldn't it be, oh, we protected the election, saved the election? What do you mean? And this graphic right here is really interesting. You have what appears to be like, I guess you would say, Capitol storming type graphics. You got Trump. He's really prominent. There's a Confederate flag. You know, that guy that was in the Capitol, that picture that's everywhere. He's like right below the president, so you can see the flag and you won't miss it at all. And then you have Biden posters and just all types of stuff in this kind of Where's Waldo type graphic. Of course, you got the QAnon shaming the federale, but that's a different story. Anyway, we're going to just kind of skip through it. Oh, let's look at this first part first. A weird thing happened right after the November 3rd election. Nothing. The nation was braced for chaos. Liberal groups had vowed to take the streets, planning hundreds of protests across the country. Right-wing militias were girding for a battle. But let's pause right there. Really, it was the left-wing people that were going to act up if their guy didn't win. Okay? When Trump didn't win, we didn't go out there and try to battle them. So if there's any kind of battle that was going to happen, it was going to be one-sided. It was going to be the left trying to go into our areas or into their own areas and tear stuff up. And usually the left goes into like low-income black areas to tear those up first, but that's a different story, and I digress. Let's continue. In the poll before Election Day, 75% of Americans voiced concern about violence. Instead, an eerie quiet descended as President Trump refused to concede. The response was not mass action, but crickets. When media organizations called the race for Joe Biden on November 7th, jubilation broke out instead as people thronged cities across the U.S. to celebrate a democratic process that resulted in Trump's ouster. Okay, so it's all right to have all these people, some got masks on, some don't, elbow to elbow, wall to wall, quote unquote, celebrating the ouster of Donald Trump. But if I have no mask on in the Whataburger, that's somehow a problem, but we'll move on. A second odd thing happened amid Trump's attempts to reverse the result. Corporate America turned on him. Pause right there again. Is it about reversing the result? Is it about reversing the result necessarily, or is it about having a fair outcome of the election? About having every vote counted? Let's make sure we get that straight. See right here already in this article, they're doing exactly what they admit to doing later on in the article, but we get to it in a minute. Hundreds of major business leaders, many of whom backed Trump's candidacy and supported his policies, called on him to concede. To the president, something felt amiss. It was all very strange, very strange. Trump said December the 2nd. Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint the winner, even while many key states were still being counted. And that's true. We all know about that. We were seeing Pennsylvania, Georgia, all of that. But the media were like, nah, let's move on. We're going to keep going because they already had this stuff in place. But let's continue. In a way, Trump was right. There was a conspiracy unfolded behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protests and coordinated the resistance from CEOs. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans. So you telling me that what you were doing behind the scenes stopped the protests as well? Well, why couldn't you stop it during the summer where the whole country burned up? Why couldn't you stop it after the election at the Capitol? I mean, I don't really understand. I think that there was going to be no protests if Trump were to lose. There were only going to be protests if Trump won. But I think there was some things unfolding behind the scenes. Let's keep on going. The pact was formalized in the terse, little notice joint statement by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and AFL-CIO published on election day. Both sides will come to see it as a sort of implicit bargain, inspired by the summer's massive, sometimes destructive racial justice protests, in which the forces of labor come together with the forces of capital to keep the peace and oppose Trump's assault on democracy. So basically, the Chamber of Commerce, AFL-CIO, they came together to try and fight against Trump. Because that's what it is right there. And they say they're opposing Trump's assault on democracy. Is it about having a fair and free election, or is it about we got to stop Trump? We got to dump Trump. Like, that's what I'm seeing all throughout this article. Okay, first it was, okay, they're celebrating the ouster of Trump. Now it's we got to oppose Trump's assault on democracy. So we see what's going on here. It's pretty clear. All right, I'm going to go ahead a little bit here. I'm going to get down to really where it gets crazy. That's why the participants want a secret history of the 2020 election told, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. They were not rigging the election, they were fortifying it. So that's what we're calling it nowadays. Rather than rigging it, you did all of that. You changing the rules, the laws, the media, public perceptions, using influencers, all kind of stuff like that. It's not rigging it. It's just fortifying it. Basically, you're manipulating it in the way that suits you the best. Because if we did that on our side, changing rules and laws and everything else, then you say it was rigged. Just like with Stacey Abrams, Edwin Abrams' tank in Georgia says, oh, well, Brian Kemp, he's a guy that was trying to have voter ID and all this and that. So he was trying to influence the election. He was trying to rig it. They stole it from me, all this and that. That's fine for her to say. But when you guys do it behind the scenes, covertly, acting like you're not, and then saying that we are crazy for pointing it out, all of a sudden you can do that and that's fine. Okay, that was really crazy, but not surprising at all. Not in the least bit. I think we all know what's happening with the election. They were changing rules and laws. All right, this whole thing with mail-in ballots, they want to use the media. Here's a great example, actually. Mail-in ballots. They use the media to say that mail-in ballots, like universal mail-in ballots, is the equivalent to absentee voting when it's not. Absentee voting is when you request a ballot because you can't be where you are for whatever the reason. And it's got to be a good reason. You can't just say, oh, I want it because I don't want to go. It's got to be a good reason. I'm in the military. I had to move real quick and all this and that. I couldn't do my thing. You need to have a very good reason why you're requesting it, and you must request it yourself, and then they send it to you. All right. But with universal mail-in ballots, you just get in the ballot sent to your house. If your name is on the voter roll, they send it to you. It doesn't matter if you don't live there anymore, if you dead or whatever, they're going to send it to you. And then when you combine that with some of the laws that have been changed, like the lack of voter ID, talking about it's racist, using the black experience and the black pain to justify a way to cheat. And I was saying that before. I was like, you know what? If they got no voter ID, that's an avenue they can use when they need to use it to, not quote unquote rig, but fortify. Voting with less security, which means you have that open avenue to be able to cheat. How is anybody going to know if it's not just me mailing back 6 ballots that came to my house from prior residents? How are they going to know that? You're mailing them out willy-nilly. You don't need any kind of ID necessary to prove it. You could just send it out and that's it. Nobody requested it and nobody checked it when they came in. How do we know it didn't happen on a large scale? We don't know that. But that was already a thing that was predicted before it happened. They were able to get some of these rules and laws changed last minute. And I am not surprised. It's really unfortunate that this is what's going on, but this piece was pretty nasty. All they did was just rub whatever they did in our faces. Yeah, we changed rules, laws, got the media influence, and that's something else I want to say right quick before we close. the media are most certainly complicit. I would say the media is probably the most complicit party in all of this because they shape the public perception of what's going on politically. For the most part, if you are a Democrat and you want to believe whatever the Democrats say and you don't take time to research or anything like that, like most normies do, then you'll just believe whatever the media tells you. And if they tell you that, Trump's a racist, white supremacist, and, believe whatever we say, go vote by mail is fine, you'll pretty much stick to that and that'll be what it is. And you'll vote by mail. And if you go to the place trying to vote in person and then they say, oh, you already voted, you just be like, oh, it must be a mistake. Not even thinking about the fact this is something that was already orchestrated. Not even thinking about that, not even caring about that. There's all kind of little frauds and stuff going on. They say, oh, it's not going to be a lot of people that really are affected. There's always voter fraud. They do all that stuff in the media, tell you whatever, give you control opposition, give you all of that. And at the end of it, their objective is met. This is the reason why so many of us are just breaking away from the media. You say, you know what? I'm done. I got my hands up. I'm through with the media because they're telling too many lies. There's too many hands in the cookie jar. There's too much dirty money involved trying to manipulate me and my vote and my country and subvert all of us in a really crazy direction. If this keeps on going, it'll be less about having a two-party system and how that's not really efficient, and trying to have like a third and a fourth party that are viable. It'd be more about trying to prevent the one-party system, the elite from both sides of the proverbial aisle, and then just regular normies out there that aren't part of the elite squad, just pretty much left to fend for themselves. Okay, and the elite isn't even always politicians. It can be those that just happen to be in the know. People like Jeffrey Epstein at one point was part of the elite. All right, Trump himself was part of the elite before he stood up against them, and then they shunned him away. This is how this whole thing works. So as I close, I want to say this. I hope that we get more and more away from the elites. What they did right there in that article was just right, exactly what they did, how they did it, and shove it in your face and dared you to do something about it. Now, I'm not saying go out there and do something crazy. I'm saying we can just speak up against this and not believe whatever they want to tell us. If you see something on television, you see something from the mainstream media, just automatically don't believe it. Do your own independent research. Okay, away from Google and whatnot, read books, like understand what's going on aside from what the narrative is that they want to feed you. Because like they demonstrated right there in the article, they're able to spin narratives, push laws, do all these things to manipulate you and the election. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about that article? Are they just rubbing their faces in it at this particular point in time, doing whatever they want to do? While they say that we can't do much of anything? Whatever your thoughts on that are, let me know in the comments below. Was the article kind of overblown and giving themselves too much credit, too many pats on the back? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. You guys know where I stand. I've been saying that the media, they're complicit. These politicos, they're complicit. They're all in it, and they're trying to manipulate us, telling things that aren't really true. I've been saying that for quite a while. This just confirmed my beliefs. I don't see how anybody left, right, or whatever politically can deny what they saw right there. If you're on the left, maybe you like the fact that this election was fortified because it helped you. But what about when it does not help you? What about when your guy wins due to a thing like that, but you don't get anything that you need? And as a matter of fact, your life gets worse. I'm not the kind of guy that says, government, please do for me. Please, sir, kind of have some more. I'm not that kind of guy. I need the government to do basic things. Security of the nation, which means southern border. That's a different story. Foreign nation affairs, handle small things around like disaster relief, things like that. But when it comes to my personal affairs, how I make money, stay away from that. Just stay away from that and just provide me with basic level of governance is all I need. I'm not a proponent of anarchy and no government, just small government, not intrusive, all of my everyday business, dictating how I operate in my everyday life government. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.